But during my quarantine, I started a children's show.
I know. I love that. That's so great. I wish I would have. I mean, like, I have not done anything creative. We bought a house.
That's amazing.
I got a new car yesterday.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know you were saying that to fix it would be more expensive. So that's great. What kind did you get?
I got an Equinox.
Oh, a big mommy car.
I know. It's such a mommy car. It's an SUV. I'm driving around in an SUV. It's my mom mobile. I'm totally we moved into the suburbs. I got myself a mom car.
Oh my gosh,
I'm doing the whole
so
suburban
funny.
thing completely out and out.
Oh my gosh.
And today I got to meet my neighbor because their trampoline blew into our backyard.
It was windy.
It was very windy. Was like, I got that trampoline I wanted. No, it's going back to the neighbor.
Oh, that's funny.
So that was fun.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, I guess we should get started.
Yes.
So this is Revolution Rosies.
Hi guys.
As you can see by the screen, unless you're listening to the podcast, I'm Vivienne Vega.
I'm Betty LeRoux. Hi.
Hi. Yes, if you haven't listened to us before, this is a podcast about badass women in history and in the present. And today and in the future's podcast, whenever you may be listening, who knows, yes. We will be discussing women in music. Mm-hmm. I am changing my background.
You're so funny.
My hair disappears though because my hair is green screen.
That's hilarious. That is so funny. I didn't even realize it. I'm
in jolly old England. Well, I saved this picture so that we can go on a journey.
I like this. Okay, I'm ready to go on this journey with you.
This is part 2 of our Women of Music.
Yeah, Forgotten Women of Iraq.
I don't know that mine's forgotten as much as she is just not, she wanted to be kind of not known. She kind of wanted to blend in or not. Well, she didn't necessarily want to blend in. I'm going to start out with a quote because I loved it. Okay. So the person I'm doing, her stage name is Styrene. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
Okay.
This is going to be great for me.
Okay, great. Okay. So if you know me and you know my style, you know I really like the 70s. I like punk rock.
Yep.
That's just what I am into.
That is you.
That is me. So Styrene, this is a direct quote from her on a documentary I watched in regards to her. She says, and she has a tiny little meek voice and she talks so cute. She's like, I chose the name polystyrene because it's a lightweight disposable product, like a pop star, plastic and disposable. It's so little and cute, and when
polystyrene.
When you hear her though, it's so bold and brash, and you're just like, what? You talk like that, and that's how you sound? What is happening? It's maddening. But anyways, so polystyrene was born Marianne Joan Elliott Syed on July 3rd, 1957 in Bormley, Kent in England. Her parents her mom was an Irish-Scottish legal secretary and a Somali-born dock worker, though she said that he was actually a Somali aristocrat.
Oh. She said he was an aristocrat?
She told everybody that he was.
Okay.
So it's up in the air. Who knows what it actually was. Anyways, so they split up early on when she was a child because her mom actually didn't want to conform to the Somalian way of life that her father had desired, meaning he was a polygamist and he had actually another wife in Somalia. So she was like, I don't want other people raising our kid, and I don't want you to have another wife, and
I'm not cool with this. So
yeah, I'm kind of
peace.
I'm kind of used to being an Irish-Scottish legal secretary here in England. I think I'm gonna
just gonna scooch.
I'm gonna chill here if that's fine. But growing up, Polly, she, like I said, she told everybody that her dad was like a Somali aristocrat and that he like left to be like rich in Somalia. I don't know if that was like to make herself seem like fancier or,
Just give like a bit of like mystery or
yeah, like I don't
just
exactly
like a fanciful
right.
tale.
So her mom actually raised her alone in a very white neighborhood where Polly felt super duper awkward and she never really truly felt like she fit in. Because she was a mixed race, obviously, being
Right.
Irish, Scottish, and Somali.
Yeah.
Very different. And so she had this frizzy hair and compared to her very English peers, and she had darker skin, even more so than her mom. She was a lot darker than her mom. So going out together with her mom, she was like, I don't feel like I fit in with you, Yeah. And then she always, from a very young age, had a super unique fashion sense. She always stuck out. And her mom loved her dearly, but she allowed her to have her own freedoms and just kind of let her do whatever she wants. So she let her dress the way she wanted. She let her kind of like, she wasn't really a partier per se, but she was a hippie child. So when she was 15, her Polly actually ran away from home, and she only had 3 pounds in her pocket, which is about $3.92.
That's not money.
It's not a lot of money.
That's not money.
What are you doing? And she actually hitchhiked from where she was in Kent, from music festival to music festival.
That's very much a 70s thing to do, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
That is the only time you could have done that.
Absolutely.
In the 70s.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking, I feel like kids that don't feel like they fit in, I think sometimes they also dress, because you were saying that she she dressed like her own way and everything like that. I think that sometimes, and I did this as a kid too, because I didn't fit in, you dress in a way that when you don't fit in, you get to say it's because of something I've chosen and not something that I am.
You can take control of it.
Yeah. And I think it's a way to control,
this is my thing.
You're controlling the narrative. Like, no, absolutely. I've chosen not to fit in. It's not just because of who I am. It's like what I've chosen. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you're completely right. Yeah. So unfortunately, though, this tour of hers going from festival to festival ended super abruptly, but not for reasons that you'd think.
No.
She was bathing in a river, and it was not a river, more like a dirty stream, and she stepped on a rusty nail.
Oh, Christ.
She had to be rushed to the hospital, and she was treated for septicemia.
Ooh. That's no good.
That's like my worst nightmare.
It's like, am I going to lose my foot? Am I going to lose it? It was a rusty nail. Like, they tell you don't step on rusty nails. That's why we get shots.
That's specifically what they say. Don't step on rusty nails. Like, specifically.
Yeah, specifically. This is why we get shots for tetanus, because of some rusty nails. They're fucking littered everywhere.
Evidently so.
Oh my God.
They started that story because of polystyrene, evidently. So she figured that with her kooky style and unique voice and her love for music, that perhaps she should try her hand at music. And so she started a pop reggae career, or something like it, is what I said, when she was 18. She was 18 under her real name, Mary Elliott. And she released her first single called Silly Billy. So this was in 1975.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
That's so cute. Silly Billy.
Yeah. So it didn't quite go well, though.
Really?
It didn't. But on the next year, on her 19th birthday, she went to a show that inevitably would change her entire life. And she went to go see the Sex Pistols at an empty hall almost. There was like very little people there. And it was on Hastings Pier, playing a set of all cover songs. The Sex Pistols were playing only cover songs.
Huh.
And it changed her entire life, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
Obviously, the Sex Pistols, 1976, they're starting to like really hit their stride then.
Starting to get into their thing.
Right. So she's 19 and she's like, wow, this is cool. Like maybe pop reggae, whatever the fuck I'm doing isn't really
not quite the
where
thing
it's at.
that's going on. Actually, I like this.
Yeah, whatever this is neat. So immediately after the show, she runs home, doesn't step on a nail, and she and she wrote up a newspaper ad because that's like what everybody did. The Clash did it. The Sex Pistols did it.
I mean, the Beatles wrote up a newspaper ad. Everyone does a
newspaper ad.
That's how you start your amazing band.
Especially in England. Jolly old England. I think their paper was called The Melody Maker. I think, if I'm correct in this.
That's cute.
It is very cute.
It's very cute.
And it makes sense. But she stated she was looking for young punks who want to stick it together and form a band. That's what it said. Young punks who want to stick it together and form a band.
That's really cute.
Or in her voice, young punks who want to stick it together and form a band. So tiny and meek
so
and
cute
and little.
Yeah.
So this is when she actually ends up meeting her future bandmates and formed X-Ray Spex was the name of the band. And she transformed into Polystyrene. She dropped her real name and she's like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm going to be Polystyrene. And this band is going to be called X-Ray Spex. Billboard magazine once described her as the archetype for the modern day punk feminist.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it must mean something, which by the way, I'll get to it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Because I'm going to brag about it. I've told you about it, but I feel like everybody else needs to know about it. Like I mentioned before, she had a unique style. She had braces, like the big metal ones, like not like the
like 1970s braces,
like big ones. She had big hair, and she she wore that frizz proud. Like she was like, I want
this is my hair.
I want it,
all of it.
And she often wore trash bags and day glow styled accessories.
Oh,
she was perfect.
Yeah,
of course,
really
her being a POC, a person of color, and a woman made it a very different situation for her in this climate as well, being in the punk scene. So in 1977, they released their first single and their first album, Germ Free Adolescence, is what the album's called. Now, I want to tell you a little bit of what I just found out about Germ Free Adolescence. So it reached number 30 on the UK album chart that year, or in 1978 it did. And I want to tell you the number 1, number 2, and number 3 albums of that same time. Same time frame.
And this was you said this was the punk?
No, this is the UK overall albums chart.
Oh, just like all over UK, and they got number 30, and
number 30.
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3 of that same chart.
Okay. Gotcha.
Number 3 is called The Album by ABBA.
Okay. Okay.
Number 2 is Grease original soundtrack.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
And number 1, they really loved their soundtracks this year, is Saturday Night Fever original soundtrack.
You know, I was singing that to my daughter tonight.
So they got on that same list, which is hilarious.
Yeah. I just
picture, wait until you hear their song, because you're going to be like,
oh, wait a minute.
What is this doing on that list? And I just think it's hilarious.
But
your door's opening.
That's creepy. It doesn't latch. This is like the one room in the whole house that doesn't latch.
That was creepy, and I'm keeping it in.
Oh, it's the Manchu. It's Podcast Kitty.
Thank God.
So anyways,
oh my God, I thought we were going to have a thing.
Podcast Kitty decided he needed to come in and say, meow.
I do too.
So, anyways,
shit. It's just so funny to think of germ-free adolescence being on the same charts as ABBA. And Grease and Saturday Night Fever. It doesn't make any sense, but it's hilarious.
It was the 70s.
It absolutely
That
was.
is super 70s. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when she was writing her songs, she wrote about what she knew. She knew about being different, and she knew about being a woman in a mostly male-dominated career field. And she had a unique way of looking at the world, so she knew about that. So X-Ray Spex was as strange and delightful as she was. It featured her tiny but bold scream that cuts to the core, hard driving beats, and a saxophone, but it is not ska, Mike.
But not quite ska.
I can't deal with ska, and I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that out loud on the podcast. My husband listens to this.
I know. I said sorry, Mike. I said
it.
I pre-said it. But
then you like put the nail in the coffin.
But don't worry. I give a shout out to ska later. Don't you worry. Don't you worry, because actually a person I was going to do is ska, and I say that later. Anyways. Oh God.
He just walked in. He's like, did somebody say something bad about ska?
No, somebody I was going to do was going to be ska.
He can't hear you.
He'll hear it later. Anyways, two songs that X-Ray Spex are best known for are "Oh Bondage, Up Yours," which is an anti-love letter to patriarchy. By this time, women still had very little rights and were still required to actually have a male present to sign for a loan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's super recent that we've been able to sign for a loan and drive at night by ourselves.
Like, what is that about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, is your brother around? Like, I don't have a brother.
No,
is your
really,
dad around? My dad's dead.
Yeah. You couldn't have a loan. You couldn't have like a credit card. You couldn't have anything in your name because you were a woman. And that's
crazy.
Super recent.
So crazy. So another was called Identity, and it was written, I'm going to give a slight trigger warning.
Okay.
Slight. After she witnessed a sales clerk that she knew named Tracy crouching in the corner of a ladies' powder room, cutting herself, telling Polly that she doesn't belong in this world. And she just was like really depressed. And so she was like, there witnessing that. And then she also was combating her own struggles with fitting into a society she felt she didn't belong. So it was like, okay, I know this girl is having a struggle. I'm having a struggle. It's an identity crisis.
Yeah.
For us as women in this society. Yeah. Anyway, Polly felt that being in the limelight was torturous. She absolutely hated it. Men were not kind to her, which, in the punk scene, they were getting spit on and stuff all the time.
Yeah,
that's what they were doing. They called it gobbing, which is fucking gross, but
disgusting.
It's so disgusting. They were,
but it's just,
but they were especially mean to women.
I'm assuming so, especially in the 70s, because you were just like less of a person then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially like a black woman, you would be like, it would be awful. It would be awful.
Yeah. Of course, she got on with her bandmates, but she was ridden with anxiety before and after each performance, no matter what.
Yeah.
After a show in 1978, she began having visions of pink lights in the sky and objects crackling as she touched them. Ooh. That's not great, right?
It's not.
Her mom thought she was having hallucinations, so she took her to the hospital and was misdiagnosed with schizophrenia. And later,
that's also not great to be misdiagnosed with schizophrenia.
That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big diagnosis.
That's a bad one with like what they were doing back in those days. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh. Well, luckily, she didn't have to be like sent away or anything. Like her mom took good care of her and stuff. So she didn't have to be like hospitalized or anything. But luckily, later she was properly diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 1991. But it took until 1991, until she was diagnosed properly.
Gotcha.
She felt that with this diagnosis, though, that being out of the spotlight was probably for the best. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Where she was like, okay, well, cool. That means that I can take a break from being in the limelight. That's kind of what she wanted all along.
I need it. I have this like very reasonable excuse. I can't just say, which is ridiculous. Hey guys, if you need a break ever, just take a break.
Just
you
take
don't
a break.
Need to have a reason.
Nah, you don't.
It sucks that we force ourselves to have a reason, but you don't have to have one. You can just take a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, this brought her to tears, and she began a solo career, creating her first solo album in 1980 called Translucence, and it was a more jazz style album. So we have a connection with our people.
I like me some jazz.
Yeah, and it's so weird when you hear what she did with X-Ray Spex, and then you hear that she did a jazz. Yeah, Translucence. But then from there, she released several other albums, all with different sounds and genres. So she never really stuck to one.
That's also genre. Very cool.
Yeah. I love that. Well, of course, her going from like a pop reggae sound to then being in a, like punk band is.
Yeah, she has range.
Absolutely. So she has one daughter named Celeste Bell dos Santos, who is...
Celeste is such a beautiful name.
Isn't it? Celeste Bell.
It's so cute. It's beautiful.
So pretty. Who is a musician, artist, and writer, and who was super duper close to her mom. Crazy close from birth on. She has co-written a book about her mom and crowdfunded a film called Polystyrene, I Am a Cliche.
I'm sorry. I just love that her daughter did all those things for her.
Oh, I know. So beautiful.
Really cute.
In 1983, Polly was initiated into the Hare Krishna movement, and her daughter and her lived in a temple, a Hare Krishna temple, from 1983 to 1988. And she was also a vegetarian. Just thought I'd throw that in.
I love where you threw it in and when. You're just like...
I felt like it belonged with the Hare Krishna part.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
So, Hare Krishna, vegetarian. Anyways, so in 2008, she reunited with her X-Ray Spex bandmates to do a 30-year reunion of their Germ-Free Adolescence album. And Polly's daughter, Celeste, her band actually opened for them at the Roundhouse in London, which, again, adorable.
It's so cute.
I love their love.
Love it.
I love their love.
It's great.
So
it's
cute. Amazing,
and it's beautiful.
It really is.
I just love that she opened for her mom's band.
I know. And her mom, so she constantly was telling her, like, you don't want to be in this world. Like, Polly was like, you don't want to be in this world. Just trust me. And Celeste was like, yes, I do.
Okay, I do too. You can't tell me no, Mom.
Yeah. And she's like, you were. And she's like, for a year, Celeste. Like... but anyways, in 2010, it was announced that she would be releasing an album called Generation Indigo. This is going to be like her big, like, return to like being cool and like, I'm back in my like element and whatever. But before its release, she was starting to put out downloadable tracks, which was like a new thing. 2010, it was like starting to be like a new thing, right?
A bigger thing, yeah.
Right. So the first one was called Black Christmas, which was inspired by a Los Angeles killing spree of a man that was dressed as Santa Claus. And it was written with her daughter, Celeste. They wrote a song together.
First of all, I feel like I've heard of it.
I know. Me too, and I did hear it because I listened to it after. But
it sounded super familiar, and it's either because I know the murder, or
well, and was
it a real murder?
It was, yes.
Okay, so I either know the murder or I know the song.
Well, it's very likely that you know the murder.
That sounds about right.
Because
it's more likely that I know the murder than the song.
Very likely. However. I mean, you could know the song too, because the album actually went it got pretty good acclaim. But another single, Virtual Boyfriend, was later released, and it speaks on our culture's obsession with technology, which is a brilliant track. And it was released in 2011, which is actually kind of before we really became super dependent on.
What do you mean that we're dependent on like online presence? It's not like our society depends on it or anything.
I mean, yeah. It's like, did she call this happening or what? Generation Indigo was released in Europe with critical acclaim in March of 2011 and was released in the US on my birthday, April 24th, 2011.
Awesome.
Styrene, however, died the day after her final album was released in the US on April 25th, 2011. Sorry.
She would have been really young.
She was fairly young. She was 53.
That is pretty young.
Yeah. She told the public that she was treated for breast cancer, but that it had spread to her spine and to her lungs in February of that year. So she had only had 2 months, really.
That sucks.
So she ultimately died of metastatic breast cancer at the age of 53.
That's so sad.
My sources are from Wikipedia, an article from The Guardian called My Mum, the Punk Pioneer, and it was done by her daughter Celeste, of course, and this beautiful piece of literature.
Oh, yes.
It's Vivienne Goldman is her name, and it is so good. So good. But I'm going to give you like a couple other women that I was going to talk about, just a really brief.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the ska one I was going to talk about. Her name was Pauline Black, and she's from the band Selector, in case Mike has not heard of Selector. It's a two-tone ska band from England, and they are crazy badass. They're really, really good. They are basically like a super group. It's so cool. Cool. And then the other one is actually like a conglomerate group of women, and they're called the Scroggins Sisters, and they are from a band called ESG, which is short for Emerald, Sapphire, and Gold, and they're from the Bronx, and they have the most sampled song in history, a song called UFO, mostly used in like rap and hip hop. So Biggie used it, Beastie Boys have used it, and I know a bunch of others who have, but I am
super interested in that one. That's super cool.
And it's an avant funk, no wave dance punk band from the Bronx in the mid 70s.
That's really cool.
ESG.
ESG.
Amazing. And they're four sisters from the Bronx.
And they're the Skog sisters?
Scroggins, but the band is called ESG.
I'm just going to write that down right now.
Oh my gosh, they are one
because
of my
I'm really,
they're
really
one of my,
interested.
They are one of my favorite summer bands of all time.
That's awesome.
I was so torn. I was like, oh shit, do I want to do ESG or do I want to do polystyrene? I don't know. It was tough. It was really tough.
I mean, like, I knew that this was going to be like picking this subject. I was really excited because I knew how excited you would be and how much you would love this subject.
It was so hard. I didn't know what to do. It was so hard.
I would say, like, I had a million things that were going through my mind. Like, of course, the Elvis chick popped in my head, and I was like, oh, that's who I'm going to go with. That she was my first choice. And then, yeah, just like looking into it, there are so many women who...
We could do a whole series, really.
We could do an entire series of women who have been looked over in rock and roll throughout history.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
absolutely.
I was very excited. I feel like this was a very fun, like, welcome back.
Oh yeah, so fun. And we can provide music, and we can provide pictures, and we can. This is a really cool, fun thing, and I'm really glad we get to do multiple medias right now.
Yes, and I hope people really enjoy it.
I do too.
This is the first one. We'll get better. My background will stop sucking so much because I'll stop looking like I just moved into a place that I just moved into.
You moved in like this week. Shut up.
Yeah. And I'll, like, try wearing makeup again since I haven't done that in forever.
Yeah, Casey was like, "Why are you wearing makeup?"
That's what I need to hear. Although I am straying away from eye makeup right now because my eye. So anyways,
Right.
Let's do our little sign off.
All right. Y'all keep smearing lipstick.
And raising hell.
Goodbye.
Bye.